Donald Trump's war against migrants would be an economic disaster.
Does Donald Trump ever return to Queens, the neighborhood where he spent his youth? If he did, he would probably be horrified. According to the census, it is the most racially and ethnically diverse county in the continental United States. It is difficult to find a culture or nationality that is not represented there. Immigrants make up nearly half of the population and over half of the workforce. Personally, I find it wonderful. When, for example, I go for a walk in Jackson Heights, I see the essence of America as it was supposed to be, a magnet for people from all over the world in search of freedom and opportunity, people like my own grandparents.
Make America great again.
And no, Queens is not an urban hell. It may not be very wooded or verdant, but it records fewer serious crimes per capita than elsewhere in New York, knowing that the city, even if nobody will believe it, is one of the safest places in the United States. New York is also relatively healthy, and life expectancy is about 3 years higher than in the United States as a whole. Yet, Donald Trump has declared that migrants poison the blood of America, a formula that, to borrow the remark of the great and regretted Molly Ivins, would sound better in its original German version. Yes, I know that there is a debate about whether the MAGA, Make America Great Again, movement fully meets the criteria of fascism, but can we at least agree that its language is becoming more fascistic? Just like the policies it advocates.
Unemployment at its lowest.
An article in the New York Times recently announced that if Trump returns to the White House, he intends to lead a drastic anti-immigration policy by scouring the country to flush out migrants living illegally in rural areas and building immense camps to concentrate them before expelling them by the millions. In light of all this anti-democratic rhetoric, it seems almost absurd to point out that a Trumpian war against migrants would be an economic disaster. If there is anything behind the former president's hostility towards foreign workers other than pure xenophobia, it seems to be the idea that the United States has only a limited number of jobs to offer, and that immigrants are stealing them from natives. In reality, however, except during recessions, the number of jobs, and therefore the growth of the economy, is limited by the available workforce, not the other way around. And the contribution of immigrants to long-term American growth is surprisingly important. Since 2007, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the U.S. workforce has grown by 14.6 million people. Of these additional workers, 7.8 million, more than half, were of foreign origin. If these immigrants are stealing American jobs, how is it that unemployment is at its lowest level in 50 years? In reality, we have a great need for these workers, especially because they will help us meet the needs of an aging population. To cushion the impact. Now, you may fear that migrants, being less educated, push wages down and increase income inequality. But the result of several decades of research on this issue is that this apparently isn't the case. Even uneducated foreigners bring their own skills and choose different jobs from their native counterparts, so they do not replace them but complement them. Let us not forget that the Trump administration officials tried to stop the influx of qualified foreign workers into the American technology sector, apparently believing that it would reserve good jobs for Americans, when in reality, it would only undermine our technological advantage. None of this is meant to hide the fact that the sudden arrival of waves of immigrants can impose a significant burden on local communities and that we need to develop policies to mitigate this impact. This is very different from a massive rejection of immigration, which is as American as apple pie, not to mention pizzas and bagels, dishes introduced by early immigrants who, in their time, were subject to as much hatred and prejudice as current migrants. The New York Times 2023